Oh, you so hate the phone, don't you?
What?
Yes,
What are you talking
do.
about?
I
No, I
can
don't.
tell you do. You are
No,
a
I
straight
don't.
up Android user. And now you're using the iPhone 10. I know you hate it.
What? No,
I
I
know
think it's a
you do.
good phone. I
Yes,
think
yes,
it's a
you
really,
do. You
really
want
nice
to
phone,
hate
and
it.
I like using it.
You are trying so hard to enjoy this phone.
Come on, really?
But you hate it.
Okay, I think you're being really unfair right now. Okay, no, you're being
Oh
ridiculous.
my
You are being
gosh.
ridiculous. I like the
He
iPhone
hates
10,
it, guys.
okay?
He
I'm being
just hates
completely honest with you.
You
Come
hate
on,
it.
you guys believe me, don't you?
You know you do. You just don't want to admit it.
Ha. Come on, you guys believe me, don't you? Please tell me you believe me. Please? Hey, what's good guys, it's Zach. Hope you all are doing well. For the past 48 hours, I've been using the iPhone 10 as my main phone, and I just wanted to share with you my initial thoughts and impressions on what it's been like so far. So this isn't my full review or anything like that. That's coming a bit later, so if you want to see that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But for now, here are my thoughts on the iPhone 10 48 hours later. So first off, the hardware. In terms of build quality, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's super solid, the phone feels very nice in the hand, very premium materials used here. I honestly expect nothing less from Apple. Now, if you know me, you know how much I love using big phones. Ever since the Note 4, I've opted to go for the larger device, and I've never really looked back. For me, the iPhone 10 is small. It's got nearly the same footprint as something like the regular Pixel 2. This isn't a problem or anything, it's more of a preference, and I think it'd be awesome if Apple made like an iPhone 10 Plus with the same body size as the iPhone 8 Plus. Can you imagine that screen? Well, something like that would probably start around $1,300, but it'd still be nice. But let me tell you, it is quite refreshing to see an iPhone in a different form. We've had the same looking iPhone for 4 generations, and it's cool to see something that used to be a concept in real life. Okay, so this screen is awesome. It's bright, super crisp, colorful, and very clean. I really like it. Yes, it is using OLED panels from Samsung, but the calibration and everything else was up to Apple, and as usual, they did a good job. It's a very nice screen, and on top of that, thanks to the screen and body form factor, this actually makes iOS look good. I don't know about you, but I was never really a fan of the way iOS looked, but on here, it works for me. It's like this is the phone iOS deserves. Alright, so let's talk about that notch real quick. Is it a problem? Not necessarily. I actually got used to it pretty quickly as it does a decent job of blending in. With optimized apps like Instagram, for example, it didn't seem to bother me, which is good, but when I went to watch a YouTube video and I cropped in so the video would fill the entire screen, that's when it became very noticeable. And no, I don't normally browse the internet in landscape, but I know a lot of people do, and yes, the top notch is right there in your face. Big deal? To me, not exactly. But because of this notch, there are some interesting limitations, one of which being the fact that you can no longer choose to display the phone's battery percentage in the top right corner anymore because, well, there's no space. Sure, it's just a small swipe away, but really, I'd like to be able to just glance up there at any time to see how much juice the phone has left. Shouldn't be forced to swipe down. And speaking of swipes, let's talk about navigation and how quickly I got used to these gestures. So the swipe up to go home was really easy to get used to. To me, it feels pretty natural. It's like you're just tossing the app back onto your home screen. Now, what I'm not too big of a fan of is the activation of multitasking. Before, you just double tap the home button and boom, they're right there. But now since there is no home button, you gotta swipe up, wait for a quick second, and then the open apps are displayed. It's not the worst thing in the world, to be honest. It's something to get used to for sure. But on top of that, if you want to close applications, you can't just swipe them away anymore because that'll bring you home. You have to long press on the application and then you can swipe them away. Again, it's not a huge deal. I could be nitpicking here, but really it's just more steps to get the simple things done. And lastly, there's Control Center, which is now activated with a down swipe from the upper right hand corner. It's another thing we're forced to get used to. You can't change it to be on the other side or anything. I think there is another way to activate it, but it just adds on an extra step. Again, for me, it wasn't really that big of an issue, and I did get used to it pretty quickly, of course, since, on Android you swipe down from the top anyway, but since this is the only real way to get to Control Center, not a huge fan, but it's not horrible or anything. Taking screenshots is just fine since it's very similar to the way you do it on most Android phones. And no, I don't use Siri, which is now triggered by a long press of the power button, which by the way is nearly twice as big as the ones found on previous iPhones. Pretty interesting. Okay, so Face ID. It's almost exactly what I expected it to be. It works, and it works well, for the most part. I still prefer Touch ID though. Touch ID is fast, and personally, I think it'll always be faster than any future version of Face ID. I had moments where Face ID just wouldn't recognize me at all and I'd have to enter in my passcode. This happens more often than I feel it should. And yes, I'm well aware that this can and probably will be improved upon moving forward. But really, Apple is just forcing us to use Face ID if we want heavy security. I would love to have options, but that's just me, and this is Apple we're talking about here. In the last 48 hours, Face ID has been okay. Nothing jaw-droppingly amazing though. Alright, so Animoji. Oh boy, Animoji. This is what a lot of people are saying is the best feature of the iPhone X, which is sad, but somewhat true. I will say though, that the face tracking here is very impressive, and you can definitely get some good laughs out of this. It's a fun thing to mess around with for sure, but I'm not sure if the hype surrounding this will last. So I didn't spend too much time with the cameras in the past 2 days, but you already know these are some of the best smartphone cameras out there right now, no question. And I think for video, they're probably the best. Now what I did spend a lot of time doing on this phone was watching videos and listening to music. The speakers on this phone are very nice. Apple's done a great job with this stereo setup since last year, and with this phone, I gave it the good old eyebrow raise. I was that impressed. Now closing things out with battery life, the first day was absolutely excellent. It lasted an entire day, but the second day was pretty sad. I found myself having to charge the phone hours before the sun went down, so as of now, I'd say battery life is decent. So while my final conclusion for this phone will have to wait, after 48 hours, I can say for a fact that I do enjoy using the iPhone X, despite the fact that it feels a bit like a beta product thanks to most software not being quite optimized for it just yet. But it'll get there. So that pretty much does it for this video. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I've been tweeting quite a bit about the iPhone X this entire weekend, so make sure you follow me on there if you aren't already. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That does it for me. I'll talk to you guys in the next video, and thank you so much for watching.